Hey guys, it's been a while. I know that you've seen my video. Autumn is here. She is going to be a month old next week, which is really hard to believe. So I am going to be telling you my labor and delivery story. Sorry if I keep looking down or looking over. It's because I'm looking at notes that I had written down just so I can remember what to tell you guys. I'm also using my iPad again because my camera is full of pictures and I have to delete some before I can use them to videotape, so it's a little wobbly. So, let's see. Let's start back at December 18th. So December 18th was a fairly normal day. I was having a little bit of cramping throughout the day. That was, nothing unusual. It was a Sunday, so I was home all day. Everybody was home all day. Towards the nighttime at around 7:30, 8 o'clock, when I put my son to bed because he goes to preschool, I started getting cramping that was on and off. More contraction related. It would get really strong, then it would go away. So it was fine for a while, and then after about an hour or so, it got worse. So I decided to start timing my contractions. So they were pretty sporadic. They weren't really a set number apart. It was more like 2 minutes apart, 6 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart, 2 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart, 1 minute apart, 6 minutes apart. It just kept getting really, really random. But they kept getting worse and worse. So I ended up calling my midwife around midnight or so and seeing if I should come in. Well, I was on the phone with her, I ended up having a contraction, and she ended up having me come in. So I came in and they checked me, and I was at 2 centimeters dilated, and I was having some pretty strong contractions. So they said to wait about 2 hours and then they would check me again. So I waited in triage for about 2 to 2.5 hours, and they came back in to check me, and I was at 3.5, 4 centimeters dilated. So that's when they decided to admit me to the hospital. I got in a room. It took them 4 times to get an IV in my hand, which you can't really see the scars now, but there's one sort of right in the middle of my hand. I don't think you can really see it. But yeah. So it took them 4 times to get an IV in my hand, and they finally got it into the side, almost by my thumb, where it went up into my wrist. Extremely painful, let me tell you. All this while I was having ridiculously painful contractions. So over the course of the night, I kept having contractions getting stronger and stronger and stronger. They checked me at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was only at 5 centimeters dilated. So then they let me relax for a little while. I ended up getting nitrous oxide, which is pretty much laughing gas, and it did not work at all for me. And so I decided to go with a pain medication through my IV. They gave me the first dose, and I was able to sleep for a little bit. They ended up checking me right before, and I was at about 6 to 7 centimeters dilated. And I remember they tried giving me a second dose, and I felt like pushing, like her head was coming down, and I told them, and they were pretty sure that I wasn't. They were like, you're only 7 centimeters, don't push or anything like that, you should be fine. So they went to go check me again, and I was fully dilated. So I had went from like 7 centimeters to 10 plus centimeters in about a half an hour or so, which is crazy. And I did not get an epidural. I was very adamant on not getting an epidural, and I was very pleased with myself for being able to have a natural birth. With my son, I did end up getting the epidural. It didn't work. I could still feel everything. However, to me, I still got the epidural. So this time around, I didn't. So we started pushing, and I pushed maybe 1 or 2 times without the doctor being in the room. And I could feel her coming down gradually, and I told the nurses, I'm like, she's coming, she's gonna be here. I could feel her head. They were pretty sure that she wasn't gonna be here, but I knew she was. So the doctor came in, and I did 1 push, and she came out. She came out very quickly, and they had to cut the cord. They didn't let Sebastian cut the cord. I was pretty sad about that because I wanted him to, but because she was born so quickly and because she was so small at the age that she was, they wanted to make sure that she was all right. She also had a heart monitor in her head because they couldn't keep her heartbeat while I was in labor for some reason. The same thing happened to my son, so I wasn't too worried about it. When she was born, she was very, very small for when she was born. She was actually born early. She was born at 38 weeks, 2 days. And she was born on December 19th at 1:56 in the afternoon. She weighed 5 pounds, 5 ounces, and she was 18.5 inches long. And her head circumference was, I think, 32 centimeters or something like that. But, yes, so they were kind of worried with how small she was. They weren't really sure why she was so small. I didn't tear or anything because she was so small, which was quite nice. We did have to stay for at least 24 hours, so I was in the hospital for about 26 and a half, 27 hours. After having her, I got admitted at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on December 19th. I had her at 1:56, and I got to go home the next day around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that was December 20th. So she was an early Christmas present. But they did blood sugar tests, they did the hearing test, and all that fun stuff. Everything came back normal, and she was perfectly fine. For right now, she's sleeping in her swing, but that is my labor and delivery story. That was actually fairly quick to tell it. Some other side notes was that my father-in-law did bring us to the hospital. I called him. He was the photographer to take pictures. It was me and Sebastian and him that were all going to be in the delivery room. My mom, my biological mom, ended up showing up with my sister, and she was in the delivery room as well. She was there when Autumn was born, and everything went fairly well. I didn't expect my mom and sister to be in the delivery room. I didn't plan on them being there, but I'm actually really happy that they were. So now every single grandparent that my children have all seen a birth of one of my children, and I'm very happy about that. And the last bit of information is that her name is very different. A lot of people don't understand. She actually has 2 first names, not 2 middle names. And her full name is Autumn Elizabeth Lillian Aubuchant. Autumn Elizabeth is her first name, and Lillian is her middle name. But other than that, that's it for my birth story, and I will be doing a breast milk bag review soon. I am nursing as well as pumping, so hopefully I will be getting that video up within the next day or two, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.